Good afternoon. It's John's D&D vlog episode number 23. We're going to talk about the Temple of Elemental Evil again. This is the second part of my one and only probably ever two-part episode. So last time all we did was talk for a half hour, and all I could fit in that half hour was just the basics on the module itself. Today I'm going to talk a little bit more on how I chose to run it, the tips and tricks I have to offer, and also my own personal experiences as I ran it. So let's get started. As usual, as always with these module reviews that I do, please, if you're a player, don't watch this because I'm going to be giving away stuff that will make your experience less fun. So please don't watch this episode any further if you're a player. The Temple of Elemental Evil is a pretty hard module. Sometimes, in my opinion, it's a little too hard. Very often, Gary Gygax liked to put players into situations where you had to successfully roll a saving throw or die on the spot, and it happens over and over and over again, right? This can be pretty frustrating to players who die. Sometimes people leave the campaign because they get tired of dying. So anyway, here's an idea I got from Fred Funk a long time ago, and it's a good one. It keeps the game moving along well, and players tend to not get discouraged. The idea is called cookie stones. A cookie stone is just a small rock that's been enchanted. You buy them from a place in a big city. In my campaign, it's Eastbrook, and the place is called the Cookie Stone Store. You put it into your pocket, and if at any point later your player happens to get to -9 hit points, two things happen. A, they're healed, but then B, they're also teleported, naked, back in front of the Cookie Stone Store. They don't have any of their equipment. They lost it all. The price for the first cookie stone is 1 gold piece. The price for every stone after that, though, increases by a factor of 10. I have one player, the price for his next stone is going to be 100,000 gold pieces. So it can become a very dramatic thing. Anyway, some DMs might think this idea is a little too childish. From what I've seen, though, it's simply just another part of the story. For example, the Cookie Stone Store owner in my campaign right now is gone. Something happened to him, and the owner just disappeared one day, and now all the people who've been leaning on these cookie stones now have to figure out how to get along without them. It's been scary for them, and if it's scary, that means that they're having fun. Anyway, players, don't get discouraged, and I can be as cruelly Gygaxian as I wish to be. So anyway, let's just keep going. My last video on Temple of Elemental Evil, I just talked about the story. From here on out, I'm going to talk about my tips and tricks on how to run the module effectively, but I'm also going to cover war stories. So I'm just going to move on with that now. So I'm going to talk about this thing I did for Lareth once. I read the module wrong, incorrectly once. And for some reason, I had the idea that Lareth, the main bad guy of T1, or in the basement of the moat house, I somehow, for some reason, gave him a ring of invisibility. And it was an accident. But it made the game extremely interesting. So in the game that I was playing in, right, when they stumbled on Lareth, they fought him, but as they were fighting him, they let him slip away. So later on, they've got this whole city on lockdown, but they know that they haven't completely cleaned out the moat house. And they know that there's a whole bunch of monsters running loose in the city and that Lareth has control over them. So my party decided that evening to hold some kind of a town hall meeting. They got all the people in the town together, and they were asking for volunteers to go help them fight. And as they're sitting there talking, they notice this one guy in the back that they hadn't noticed before. And as soon as they make eye contact, he smiles at them, he puts on the ring of invisibility, and he disappears. So all the plans that they had made and all the volunteers that they had found, Lareth knew about them, right? And from that point on, Lareth put on his ring of invisibility, and he's running through the city and burning down buildings and burned down a church and this and that and this and that. And eventually, it's very dramatic, and all the players are just completely scared out of their wits, right? And then eventually, the party is ambushed by all the stuff that was in the module that they hadn't killed yet, which was a bunch of bugbears. So anyway, they terrorized the city, and it was an interesting evening. We had a good time. But it says that the person who is the final person to actually kill off Lareth is attacked by a level 10 assassin. Just keep it in mind. Level 10 is a big deal, especially for people who are only about 3rd, 4th, 5th level. In my game, because of what I do down here on level 4, the Return of Lareth, I let them kill Lareth, I let them do whatever they want to do to him, but then, just before they leave Hamlet, they find out that the corpse has disappeared. And then that leaves me open to do something different later on. Anyway, Nulb in the ruins, a dark city, depressed city. Hamlet was scared and they were depressed, but they were still civilized, right? Nulb in the ruins, it's like walking through a city that's been through a war. The only people who are left are the ones who are just really good at surviving, and they don't care about anybody or anything. And then eventually you're going to get them to the ruins of the temple, and everything's going to look abandoned unless they look inside at all, and then they'll start finding things. At different points within the adventure, you're going to be able to take prisoners that you find, and you can bring them back to Nulb. And if you can do that, Nulb will start to open up again. It will start to heal. It will start to cheer up. People will be happy to see the prisoners return. But one thing I've noticed is that, in my game anyway, if you go into a room and you don't finish everything there, and the temple knows that it's under attack, the temple will wake up, and it will come out, and it will start trying to look for the stuff that's been attacking it. In one particular instance, one of the wizards was able to find the group and track them back to Nulb, and they brought back an elemental with them. And there was an elemental running through the city trying to kill these guys. And as soon as the elemental showed up in the city, everybody that lived in Nulb disappeared. They packed everything up in their wagons and took off to Hamlet. I think that's the biggest thing you got to realize when you're running this adventure. A bad DM, you go into a room, you kill what's in the room. You go to another room, you kill what's in the room. You go to another room, you kill what's in the room. And that's not fun. It's just dice rolling. But if you can make this thing actually spring to life and make these people react the way a normal person would act, then things get really interesting very quickly. Nulb in the Ruins, that's quick and easy to get through. Okay, the Dungeons of Elemental Evil is where we always spend most of our time. On levels 1 and 2, right, you've got 5 different types of troops, and there's a lot of infighting between them. You got the earth, air, fire, water, but then there's also people who are dressed in these black capes, black cloaks. Those are the general troops. The Harpies, I heard a story about one group who went in, and then they went down the stairs, and they made a right turn, and then they heard singing, and then all of a sudden the module was done. And all of this work, and all of this effort, and all of this, I mean, it's a big, huge, wonderful, beautiful thing. And if your player characters die there, it's a really sad, sad, sad thing. So find some way to give them a break. Either they're familiars, you know, find a way to snap them out of it. I don't know, but to have everybody die on the first level, you figure all these guys' saving throws, you know, against spells, it's like 75% chance that they're not going to make it. So the Harpies is actually a very tough encounter. I like being a little nice to my player characters sometimes, so I found a way to give them a map, a copy of the map, right? So in one of the rooms in the northeast of the second level, there was an Odiug, and he's kind of like the trash compactor of the entire place. And his room is all full of garbage, here, there, everywhere, right? So when the player characters went in there, and they were actually able to kill the Odiug, I told them that they found little scraps of paper all over the floor. And what I said was that it was a priest who had the maps on him who had been taken and devoured by the Odiug. And if the PCs went through this pile of gunk to get all these little scraps of paper out, that they could take the map and reassemble it. And then from that point, if they do it, I actually print out copies of the map and I rip them up into little pieces, and I give them the pieces with a big roll of Scotch tape. And they have a lot of fun. It's a breath of fresh air to sit down and just do a puzzle. The other thing I'd have to say about levels 1 and 2 is that the temples, each and every one of them, are complex. You have to really study them well before you get in there. I wish I had the time and I would draw them out really well for you and explain them to you really well, but we're already going to be pushing maybe an hour for these 2 episodes. Just trust me, study those things out well, because once you get there, there's no more time left to study. Level 3, Lamias. Lamias, when I first saw them, they look so wimpy, because it's this big, huge thing. They've got a lot of hit dice, and they run really fast, but the weapon that they have only does 1 to 4 points of damage. So what's the point of that? How boring, right? It's a big, huge monster that can't do any damage. Of course it's going to die right away, right? Not right. Lamias are one of the most powerful monsters I've ever seen, once you learn how to run them. All they do is exude illusion, and they exude charm, and they exude suggestion, right? So they get in, and they show off some sort of an illusion, and if it's a great illusion, your player characters aren't even going to consider trying to disbelieve it, right? So one time what I did was I told them that they found a woman who was surrounded by a whole bunch of dead monsters, and she's got a sword in her hand, but she also has a broken leg. She said she'd survived the fight with them somehow, and that she's not a cleric, so she needs help. So it's a woman with like 15, 16, 17 charisma, so of course they want to help her. And she's got a broken leg, which means she can't walk around. The Lamia's power is derived by physical touch, right? So whatever illusion is you choose, it's got to be an illusion that gives the PCs a very good reason for touching them, right? And the two best illusions I ever came up with was this woman with a broken leg and a little girl who said that the Lamia had been feeding her strange plants. Scared to death, and she always wants to ride on the shoulders of the people, right, who are taking her around. And usually when somebody finds a prisoner, they abandon the temple temporarily and they take him back to Nulb or to Eastbrook or wherever. And that's plenty of time to mess with these guys' heads. It just 15 minutes on some guy's shoulders, and then all of a sudden the little girl wants to jump on somebody else's shoulders, and if she's really cute, everyone's going to say yes. You can kill an entire party with one Lamia. This one Lamia is equally as dangerous as everything else in the entire module, all put together. Prince Thrommel. The only thing I can say about this is my PCs, they went in and they cast Detect Evil. So what I said was, the coffin's evil, but the thing inside of it doesn't appear to be evil. And then that was it. They were good for that, you know. They figured both the times the PCs figured it out. Zegetmoist Thaco is a big deal, right? If you look in the Dungeon Master's Guide at the very back, the lowest Thaco listed with anybody is 7, which isn't very good. So if you go by 2nd edition DMG rules, she's 49 hit dice, right? So that gives her a Thaco of negative 29, which is extremely overpoweringly and crazily good. So you either have to go here for something that's really bad, or you go for here with something that's too good. Have a good time. You do what you want to do. If you give them this 7, it gives them a fighting chance. It is a hard encounter. Plus, she's got just enough magic to get her through it well. So maybe you should do this, but I wouldn't be afraid to do this either. The other thing I would have to say about the final encounter is the Temple of Elemental Evil is extremely famous. Everybody knows it, right? Everybody's heard of it. Everybody's done it, maybe. Everybody knows it. So unless you're running with complete newbies, unless you're playing this game with people who've never played the game before, you always have to kind of consider the possibility that these people know what's going to happen. So at some points in this entire module, what I would do is I would change it. And one of the things I did to change this final encounter is, what I said was really, it works out really well. I used the monster from the cover of Fantastic Four, issue number 1. When they get into this one spot on the 3rd level map, I tell them that this monster from the 1st edition of Fantastic Four, that thing is sitting in the middle of the room, and like in Toy Story 3, there's that one spot where all the toys are slowly descending into the fiery furnace. So you've got the monster in the middle and all the PCs, and there's like 1,000 people on this slope, slowly falling into where this big monster is. And then on top of that, I say there's like 20 pit fiends carrying people from someplace, and they're just dropping them into the pit. It's all an illusion. And then at the edge of the pit, right where the PCs are, there's a woman with 3 babies, and she's desperate for the babies to be taken out of the pit. They can't get her out, but she knows that if you can just get her babies out of the pit, that they'll be safe. So I throw all that at them, while at the same time, Zegetmoy is also casting Silence and all these other things that she does. And she's trying to get the PCs to take the babies out of the pit and run away with them. But the babies are actually those pillars that they mention. Read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Each one of the babies is each one of the different pillars made out of a precious metal. And if they can get the pillars close enough to those doors, then the doors will all be broken up, and then she'll be able to get free. You got to realize when you're doing Zegetmoy's final encounter, her goal isn't to kill these guys. Her goal is to get free, and she'll do anything that it takes to get free. Okay, level 4. Why didn't Zuggit minions free her? So you figured you needed a 20 strength in order to break those doors. But this whole module is full of giants and ogres and ettins. At some point somewhere, somebody should have... I mean, if they were true to Zuggit, they would have voluntarily broke all those doors down. But they didn't. Why? So you can either consider this to be a mistake in the module itself, or, like I do, you could realize, maybe Zuggit minions didn't want her to get free. They wanted to be in charge. So I just think that's a really important aspect of this entire module that should maybe be explored. It might help you to roleplay it out a little bit better. From here, I would talk about the nodes of elemental evil, except I don't have any experience with them because none of my PCs ever went into them. They all got to those teleport pads, and each and every one of the PCs decided that they didn't want to chance it. So I can't tell you much about the nodes because I personally haven't gone through them. One question I have is about the golden orb of death. It says that a good paladin or a cleric would never touch it, and my question is, why wouldn't they touch it? If I'm walking down the road and there's like porno, somebody discarded a pornographic magazine on the road, and it's around a place where kids are going to be, if I happen to be like a really religious person, the first thing I would do is I would pick up that magazine and take it home and throw it away. And all the neutral people, the guys who don't care, maybe they would just look at the magazine and keep walking, right? It would be the person who most wants to protect the kids around that would be the first one to grab it and throw it away. So I don't quite understand why a good paladin or cleric wouldn't want to touch the orb of death. My guess is that they would. So in that one area, I disagree with the module itself. So that's about everything I feel like saying about the module. The rest you should be able to figure out on your own, just through your own personal study. I hope that what I've said is enough to get you thinking and to get you start looking at this place in a more three-dimensional way. There's one other thing I'm going to add, and I've been scolded for it in the past, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. This entire place is a military outpost. Clerics are running it, but nonetheless it's a bunch of soldiers, and they're each divided up into sections. I mean, there's the troops for the Temple of Earth, and there's the troops for the Temple of Air. It's all organized. It's a military. So of course if you go into a military outpost and you start attacking it, the military is organized, and it's going to organize itself to defend itself. It's not just going to let you pick off the rooms one by one over the space of weeks. So eventually everything inside the temple will get organized, and it will come out of the temple and it will attack you. So at one point what I had them do was they had all of the bigwigs of the temple. They sat up at the first floor inside the big chapel area right by the dais, and it was a trap. They basically just sat there with all of the rest of the occupants of the entire dungeon sitting there in ranks and files, and they were just sitting there and waiting for somebody to show up and to attack the place again. I had the ogre mage up on the roof, invisible. He's sitting there, he's waiting for he's waiting for the party to come and attack so that he can alert the people down inside to wake up and get ready to fight. I can't imagine it being run any other way, right? If they actually can make it all the way down to the 4th level by just picking off little rooms here and there, the DM didn't do his job. At some point, this is a big, huge, massive, mighty military machine, and it's going to defend itself. So there, at some point, for me anyway, there was just that one big encounter where the PCs have to somehow figure out how to take on, maybe 100 monsters all at the same time. One of the ways the PCs were able to do it is I let them have access to one guy from Eastbrook. He's a 15th level wizard who found out about the Temple of Elemental Evil from these guys, and he's been charged by the king to assist them. Once they realize that it's a big problem, that it's more than just a bunch of renegade werewolves or whatever, that it is actually an organization, the king actually issues a decree and sends this guy with them to help them out. So it made the game a lot more interesting for me when I did it that way. They all get together and then they all show up to kick the PC's butts. So you have to... That's how I do it. You're going to be different, but that's what I suggest. So anyway, this was episode 23. It was a really big one, just like the other one last time. So, Temple Elemental Evil, it's big and it's a little bulky and it's a little bit high priced nowadays. But you can get it off of RPG Drive-Thru for just $10, so anybody can do it. I suggest it. It's a really worthwhile module, although you need a lot of stamina to get through it. That's it. Thanks a lot. Please subscribe. Please keep watching. Please tell your friends about me. It's Jonathan Scott, John's D&D Vlog. Thank you very much. Have a good day.